video, we're going to be creating a simple contact application using ASP.NET Core MVC in .NET 6. So let me give you a map of what we're going to be doing in this video. The first thing is we're going to create a new project, and we're going to add an MVC project, which we're going to call contacts.mvc. The next thing is we're going to install these packages, these NuGet packages, in our contacts.mvc project, and then we're going to disable the nullable feature. I'm going to show you everything that I'm showing you right now in how you do it in Visual Studio 2022, because that's what we're going to be using. And after that, we're simply going to create a class library project where we're going to add our model class with these properties. After that, we're simply going to add our connection string, create a database context class, and then we're simply going to register our database context class as a service in the program.cs file, which is already existing in our contacts.mvc application when we build it for the first time. After that, we're simply going to add our migrations, update our database, then scaffold our views and controller. Okay, so we're not going to type, we're not going to hard code our views and controller. We're simply just going to scaffold them, and they're going to be generated automatically. Thereafter, we're going to build and run our project, and when our project runs, we're going to be able to navigate through the web application that we're going to build. So that's basically that's basically what we are going to be doing in this video. So let's dive right into the work. Now, to get started, we're simply going to open Visual Studio 2022, and thereafter we're simply going to create a new project. So click create new project, and our project templates should be loading. So what we want to do now is we're going to create, as I said, an ASP.NET Core MVC web application. So we're simply going to search MVC, and we're simply going to select this. So we can just double click, and there we have it. So we're going to name our project contacts.mvc, and we're going to name our solution as contacts web app, or we can actually do this .solution. All right, and we can simply strike enter. Then thereafter, we simply make sure to say our framework is .NET 6. So we're simply just going to say create, and let's wait for our project to be created, our solution to be created with one project called contacts.mvc, which is an MVC application. It should look something like this. So remember what we said, the first thing that we want to do after creating our project is add some NuGet packages. So we have 3 NuGet packages that we're going to add. The first one is going to be Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. So let's add that. What we do now is right click contacts.mvc. Thereafter, we're simply going to choose manage NuGet packages. So we should have a window like this one opening, and we're going to browse from installed. We're going to move from installed to browse. So we simply click browse, and now we're going to search for Entity Framework Core. So Entity Framework Core, and we're going to add this package. So it has to be Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. So we simply click, and we're simply going to say install. So after this package, we are going to look for Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Saver. So we simply strike OK and accept. All right, and it should be installing in just a few seconds. Okay, our package is installed, and now let's search for the next one, .SQL Saver. we simply click and say install. Should also be installed in just a few seconds. Okay, I accept. And the next one is going to be .tools. So we delete .sql server there, we say .tools, and there it is. So we can also use this tool here. You can simply just click there and it will start installing. So okay, and I accept. So as it is loading, let's try to check the next step. What next do we have to do? We've installed these packages. This one is still installing. Now what we want to do is we're going to disable the nullable feature in our CSproj file in all the projects. So right now we only have one project. Now we're going to be doing it for all the other projects that we're going to add. And this time around, in order for you to open your CSproj file, you simply double click your project. And there we have our CSproj file. So I guess you can see to say the references, the NuGet packages that we added have been added here. Okay, we can see them. The version is the same. Just make sure the version is the same. And what I was talking about is this. So nullable, let's just say disable. You can leave it enabled so that you can see what it does when it's enabled. So the best practice is just disable that. And then the next thing that we're going to do now is, let's just go back to our notepad. So we've done this. Now we're going to add a class library project and create a class with the following attributes and name. So what we're going to do now is right click our solution. So this time we're not right clicking our project, which is contacts.mvc. We're right clicking contacts.solution. So we right click contacts.solution, and now we want to go to add a new project. So this new project that we want to add is simply a class library. So we can simply just, it's right here, but you can search for it. So we simply just double click class library, and we're going to name this class library as models. Okay, and we're simply going to say next. Thereafter, we make sure to say it's .NET 6, and we simply say create. So our project is going to be created, and it should have a class, a default class called class 1. Okay, so this is the class I was talking about. Now we're just going to delete that class. And we just delete that class. We say okay. And now we're going to add our own class. Okay, you can edit this class if you want to, but I just want to show you how to add a new class. If you know, that's even better. Okay, so we're simply going to right click our models project, add class, and we're going to call this class contact. All right, singular, not contacts, but contact. Okay, so we simply say contact, and we simply say add. All right, and now remember I said we have to disable the nullable feature in every project. So we're going to the CSproj file of the models project. Okay, the models class library, we also disable the nullable feature. So we simply double click that, and this nullable has to be disable instead of enable. So we simply say disable, and we have our contacts class already created. So now what we want to do is change this to public, not internal. All right, and let's just wait for that. All right, so public, and now we're going to have let's check out which properties we're adding to our contact class. Okay, so we're going to have contact ID, first name, last name, phone. Yeah, so we can simply just copy this and have it in our Visual Studio as a comment. So we can simply just do that and that. So / asterisk *. Then in the middle there, we're going to add those properties so that we don't have to go back to our notepad. Okay, now what we're going to do here is simply type PROP and hit tab twice. So tab, and then you're going to have something like this. Okay, so we simply change, okay, int is okay for our contact ID, so we simply say contact ID. We hit enter twice. Here op tab. This time the first name is a string, so we say string first name. So we change that to first name. And pure op tab, we say string here, and we have our last name. And pure op tab, we have an int, or let's just change it to a string. Phone, you can keep it as an integer if you won't be adding things like plus signs and all that. So pure op tab. The next one is email, so we can simply say string again, and we have email. And the last one is going to be address, so pure op string address. All right, so we simply do that. Okay, and now we have our class. But then, since this is the class that is going to be used to derive our database, we're going to add certain data annotations like key to represent our primary key. So we simply say key with a capital letter K, and we're simply going to put some of the things as required. So for example, we should have a first name. Okay, so at least maybe we might not know the last name, but at least we should have a first name, and we're simply going to say required. Okay, so required. And the next thing we're going to do is the phone should be required as well. We don't want to have a contact without a phone number, so we're simply going to say required. And the next thing is, yeah, I think we can just leave these fields as required. Now we still have these warnings here about our non-nullable property and all that, so let's just check out our, yeah, so let's just save this file. Okay, and we shouldn't have a problem there. All right, so our problem has been cleared off. Our property is here. And now for this error here that we have on our data annotations, we're simply going to add a namespace here. So we're simply going to say using system dot component model dot data annotations, like that. Okay, and that should clear our error here. Okay, so I guess you can see we can simply save all the files, so we say Ctrl+Shift+S. all right, and now let's go back to our notepad so that we're able to see the next step. So the next step is us adding our connection string. Okay, so our connection string is going to be added in the app settings.json file of the contacts.mvc project. Okay, so we simply just open our app settings.json file by double clicking, and there we have it. So remember, what we want to add is a connection string, so we're simply going to add it there. So we simply do that, and we say connection strings, and we're going to give our connection string a name. So we're going to name our connection string db connection or dbcon. All right, and we're simply going to include our before we do that, don't forget your double quotes there, so dbcon, like that, and we're simply going to say full colon, like that. And now we're going to include our saver. So you can open, if you're using Microsoft SQL Server, that's what we're using in this video. You can open it, and then before you connect, you're going to see your connection string, your saver name. So my saver name is Clarence. Clarence should be SQL Express, and thereafter we simply go to we simply include the database name. So the database name that we're adding here is simply the name of the database that we don't yet have, but we're going to have when we run our migrations and update our database. So we're simply coding first, and then our database is going to be automatically generated from our code and based on our contact class. Okay, so the database is going to be called contacts, and thereafter we simply make it a trusted connection. So we say trusted connection is equal to true, and thereafter we simply say multiple active result sets is equal to true as well, right? And we terminate with our semicolon. So that's exactly how our connection string should look. So we can simply just check it out like that. All right, so that is our connection string, and the name of our connection string is dbcon. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to create a db context class. Okay, as it says here, we create a db context class. So we simply add our db context class in our contacts.mvc project. So we simply right click, and this time around we're going to say add a class. So we're going to call our class application db context or app db context. Okay, so we just type app db context. All right, and we're simply going to strike enter. So our class should be created. All right, so there we have our class, and it's already a public class. So this time around we're going to derive this from db context. All right, so we simply say db context, and we should have an error because we haven't added a using namespace for this. So the namespace that we're going to add is using Microsoft dot entity framework call, like that. All right, and this should, the error has disappeared. I guess you can see that. Now after resolving that issue, we're simply going to add some code in our class here. So we simply say public app db context, the name of our database context. Okay, like that, and we're going to have db context options, that one, and we simply do that, and the name of our database context again, which is app db context, and we're simply going to include options, which is coming from base. So base options, like that, and this being a method, we're simply going to do that. Okay, so we have now to add our data set, our database set. Okay, so db set. So we're simply going to say public db set, and we want to add a db set for the contact class that we have in the models project. Okay, so we're simply going to say contact. Okay, and thereafter we're going to say contact there again, and what we simply do is now say get and set. All right, so after doing that, I guess you can see to say this contact has an error, and we already know why we have this error. It's because we don't have the reference to the models project where the contact class is. Okay, so if we hover over that, we simply say show potential fixes, and we're simply going to choose using models. All right, so we simply click there, and I guess you can see our error has been resolved. Okay, the next thing we want to do is now register our database context in our program .cs file. So our program.cs file is simply in our contacts.mvc project. So we simply open program.cs, and this is where we're going to add our service. I guess you can see we already have some code this code was generated the moment the project was created. So now what we want to do is simply add some code which is going to allow us to register our AppDB context. I guess you can see to say we already have a service that has been added there. Okay, so that one is not necessary for us. We need to build our own. So we simply say builder.services and now we simply say dot add DB context. So we're trying to add a database context as a service, and instead of brackets there we need to have this here. Okay, so then the name of our database context is AppDB context, so we simply just type it there, and now we're simply going to add following. So simply going to do that, and okay, so we can simply terminate this, and inside here going to include something. So simply going to say options, and we have our lambda expression there. Oh, not that one. Let's just go back. Okay, so it's options, yeah, something like that, and down there we're simply going to include okay, so there's an error here, that's wrong. Okay, so this is what we're supposed to do. All right, something like that. Okay, so inside here is where we should have the following code: options dot use SQL server. So SQL server is the service provider that we're using, so use SQL server, and thereafter we're simply going to open our bracket configuration. So this time around we want to add our connection string. Okay, so we want to map our connection string to our database context. So now this is .NET 6, so we'll need the word builder, then configuration. Yes, builder.configuration .get connection string. Okay, get connection string, and our connection string has to be inside those brackets there. Now since our connection string is a string, we're simply going to put it in those double quotes, and then we just need to terminate. So now our connection string, remember we gave it a name in our appsettings.json. So let's just go back to our appsettings.json. This is the name of our connection string, dbcon. So we're simply just going to copy that, and we're going to paste it inside those double quotes there. All right, so there we have it. Now I guess you can see we have two errors here. So the first one here, remember our AppDB context, we need to add a reference for this project that we're using, so that our AppDB context does not show us an error anymore. All right, so it's using contacts .mbc. all right, something like that. So the error here has disappeared, and now this one here is to deal with Microsoft.entity framework call. So we need to say using Microsoft .entity framework call. Yes, something like that. So now we don't have any more errors. Okay, so now the next thing that we have to do is we want to add our migrations. So migrations are simply instructions that are used to create our database. Okay, so we want to generate those instructions that are going to be used to automatically generate our database, and then we're going to run another command which is called update database. So update database is simply going to create our database. Okay, so what we're going to have to do here now is simply going to open our package manager console. So we simply say tools, and we simply go to NuGet package manager, and we say package manager console. All right, so in our package manager console, let it just open. We're simply going to say add migration, and we're going to include the name of the migration that we want to add. So in this case, we're just going to call it anything. We're going to call it initial. All right, so there you have it. And now we're simply going to say add migration, and we're going to call this migration initial. Yeah, and we simply strike enter. So now we're just going to wait for our build to start, and then when the build succeeds, our migrations are going to be generated. So just wait for it. All right, and then now we can see our migrations. So we simply have two methods in here, the up and down. Okay, methods for setting up our database, and the method for dropping our database. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is we're going to run another command. If you already opened console, package manager console, you're going to find it just down there. If not, you simply go back to tools, package manager console, and package NuGet package manager, and you go to package manager console. And now what we just want to run is another command, which is update database. So the thing is, as I said earlier, these are instructions to create our database. So now we want to have our database created. So after this, when you open your SQL server, you're going to find the database that you're creating, and the database name is simply called let's just go to our app settings.json file. Okay, so the database is going to be called contacts. All right, so now let's go back to our package manager console and now run that command. Build started. When the build succeeds, our database is going to be created. All right, so now I guess you can see what's going on. Our database is being created, and now here it says done. All right, so this is good. We now have our database created. So let's just take a look at our database using Microsoft SQL Server. So as I said earlier, this is your server name. All right, so you can just copy this and put it in your connection string where you say for you to call your server. So server equals, for me it's Clarence slash SQL Express. So if one slash doesn't work, one backslash doesn't work, try two. Okay, so here we're just simply going to say connect. Now that it's connected, I guess you can see. So we're simply going to expand databases, and we're going to, I guess you can see, we have contacts here. So we simply say contacts, we expand contacts, and let's go to tables. So let's wait for it to expand as well. And there we have it. So we have a table called contact. So this contact is based on what we have in Visual Studio here. It's based on this class contact. All right, so that's exactly. So now let's check out our contact table. So let's just do that. Let's just check out our contact table. So we're simply just going to right click and say select top 1000 rows. So we're going to find that our table is empty right now because we haven't included any data. All right, so I guess you can see these are the attributes that we had. So I guess you can see contact ID, first name, last name, phone, email, and address. So this is empty right now, but we're going to fill in some data later on when we finish building our application, actually soon enough. So let's just go back and continue. So now the only thing that we're left with is scaffolding our views and controller. Okay, so now we want a controller that is going to be able to communicate with our database and also communicate with our UI, so that we're able to communicate directly with our database. Now we're not going to hard code that. What we're simply going to do is we're going to right click our views folder. So we're going to have views like create, delete, edit, details, and index. So what we just have to do is right click, and this time around we're going to say add, and we can just choose new scaffolded item. Okay, and here what we want to do is create an MVC controller with views using Entity Framework. So we just double click, and here we simply want to leave everything checked here, and let's choose. So our model class is simply contacts, which is in models, and our DB context is simply app DB context, and that's the only thing we need to do. I think our name is okay, just like that, contacts controller, and we simply say add. So you're going to need an internet connection for some of these things, like when it needs to install a certain NuGet package. So here we're installing Microsoft.visualstudio.web.code-generation.design. Okay, so let's just wait for everything to load, and I guess you can see to say our scaffolding is now happening. Okay, so we can see our code is being generated now. Alright, and there we have our controller. So I guess you can see it's named contacts controller. Let's just try to scroll down and see what code we have here. So we do have our get methods, our post, our put. Okay, so we have everything in here. So this was automatically generated using scaffolding. Okay, so now what we want to do is also check out our views. So if we just open that folder there, views, okay, and under views we can open contacts, right? So we just expand that, and I guess you can see we have create, delete, details, edit, and index. And by the way, we don't really need these stats in home, so let's just get rid of that. And now we are ready to run our project. All right, so let's just run this. Okay, so now our project has our solution has run, but we have this error. So this error is because we deleted the home folder in our from our project. Okay, so when we go back to our Solution Explorer, we have this folder called contacts. So that's what we want to open. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're simply going to let's go back to our browser. Okay, and we're simply just going to say / contacts, like that. Okay, and we can simply strike enter. Alright, and we have our web application running. Okay, so here we can simply try to create a new contact. So we simply say create new, and the page that opens is simply this one here. So let's just try to run these by side by side. Okay, so this is the create that we're having here. Okay, so let's try to create a new contact. Okay, yeah, we're simply just going to add that, and we simply say create. You can type anything into the fields, then you say create, and there we have it. So that's exactly how it's done. So in case we want to go to our details tab, we can simply click details, and there we have it. Back to list. Okay, we can even edit. All right, so let's say we want to edit the email. So let's say we want to put that email there, and we say save. So I guess you can see it changes from create to save there, and there we have it. So in this video, we just created a contact application using ASP.NET Core MVC in .NET 6. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video. See you in the next one.